we are really let me just say, for lack of better word,
we're babying the babies.
Yes. We are babying them too much. So I don't want my child, I want to hold my child. I don't want them to lie on the bed or on the baby cot by themselves. I don't want them to go outside. So I just want my child to be my child, my baby. So I remember having a friend who was telling me, when I give birth, I want to give birth to a child who has autism, because he or she is going to be a genius. Yeah. So I think that is also something that is out there.
All parents have great aspirations for their kids. When you're getting that bundle of joy from the nurse, all you want to hear is that your child is well and healthy. But guess what? There could be a spanner in the works. Autism. On World Autism Awareness Month, we want to have a conversation with our special needs educator, Brenda Kawira. And we're going to be speaking about what we need to know about autism, because it's clear that there is need for more awareness. Now, if you don't know what autism is, you're in the right place.
Hello, my name is Brenda Kawira. I'm a special needs educator and also an assessor. And I'm here to speak about autism, its challenges, its interventions, and to just let you know where, if you have a child who is on the autism spectrum and you just found out, don't get stranded, don't get stuck. I'm just here to show you and tell you which path to follow after that. Yeah, thank you.
Love it. Brenda, welcome to Boxpod.
Thank you very much.
Boxpod TV, and I'm so privileged to have you here. We're going to talk about something that I think is sort of still foreign to a lot of Kenyans.
Yeah.
They don't understand what autism is.
Yeah.
So let's start off with, what does it mean when you're on the spectrum?
Okay, so for us to say, or for you to be termed as an individual on the autism spectrum, you have to have challenges in at least 3 areas. That is on social interaction, communication, interaction. And now on top of that, now you need to have some behavioral characteristics. Those are now the behaviors we are able to see. Example is like tiptoeing. You see some children tapping their ears. You see them, they're having sensitivities. Some scream in public places, or you can even find someone, when you try to touch them, they don't want to be touched. Yeah. So those are some of the behaviors that we are able to see. But again, it does not, there are some who have just the sensory sensitivities, and there are those now who have once you have now the challenges in socialization, communication, imagination, and now the characteristics, now we can now do an assessment and confirm that you are on the autism spectrum.
And, I can imagine a parent or a couple has left the hospital with a baby, and they have all these aspirations of, I want my child to be this, I want my child to be that. Autism doesn't show up at birth.
It doesn't.
When does
Unfortunately, it doesn't. Once a baby is born, and as they grow up, of course, there are milestones that they have to achieve. So the baby starts by crying, they go to babbling, cooing. Now, eventually, at around 9 months to a year, you start seeing a child standing up and trying to walk. So the milestones, once you start seeing the milestones delaying, your baby is at around 1 year. They start at around that time, you start seeing the children saying things like mama, baba. So the communication, the speech is delayed. And also them trying to walk. Now you can tell, is my child, when they are walking, are they tiptoeing? When I'm trying to communicate with my baby, you see, when you're trying to make a child giggle, they look at you. But now for the children on the autism spectrum, most of the time, they avoid that eye contact. And as young as even 7 months, 6 months, a child is able to recognize their name. So you call them and they might turn, they might look at you, but at that particular moment, you find a child not being able to respond to their name. So those are just a few characteristics. But at around 1.5 years to 2 years, that's when you can now really see, because by 2 years, we expect a child to at least be able to express themselves. You can be able to understand what they're trying to communicate. You can be able to, they can be able now to, the teeth is grown. They can be able to feed themselves. Their motor ability, how is it? Can they hold a spoon? Can they try? Because at this time, at 2 years is when the child is trying to feed, to potty train, and engage in various activities. So once you see your child having such behaviors, or they now, when you go to a social place and they are children, you find them struggling to socialize with the other children. Yeah, and also things like teeth brushing, you find them, they don't want to engage in such activities. Yeah, and also the food. Some of them are picky. They prefer dry foods, others mixed, others wet. So you will find a child choosing a particular type of food. So at that, around 2 years now, you're able to pick most of the characteristics.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned all these things. For those who don't know, I had a brother who was living with autism. He just passed away.
Sorry.
A few weeks ago. And I remember when he was 5 months old, I was very happy to have a brother.
Yeah.
And then when he got 5 months old is when he literally stopped, couldn't sit on by himself, wasn't responding to being called. And then you've been raising someone, you're heading in a certain direction, and then you start to realize, okay. And then now this is because, he died, he was about to turn 33. So you can imagine this is the 90s, right? And so my parents there start to realize, okay, something is going on. And this was in 94, right? In 94, they're looking for help.
Yeah.
Do you know that people didn't know? There was barely any information.
Yeah.
And so until he went to school, because of course when he got of age, we were now trying to figure out, okay, and we here being my parents, trying to figure out what to do next for him. And so he went to a school, a special needs school, shout out, I think they're called Fair Mile. And the principal there is the one who spotted him and said, hey, your son is autistic. And you can imagine,
in the 90s.
For parents who have been, I think he was 9 at the time when somebody's now helping us realize what is going on. Because note, there were doctors who were like, oh, it's his nervous system, so he's on medication. Medication for what? And he was on medication every day of his life up until that time. And then the principal is like, look, it's
autism.
It's autism. So, and then now we started, his diet and all that. So I can imagine right now there's much more information, but it's so sad that we're seeing the same challenges that my parents were facing over 30 years ago, that parents are still going through that, So just to be clear, what are some of those early signs? Let's imagine a parent is at home. You've mentioned not responding to their names, maybe retrogressing with the first signs of or milestones that are now heading back, because that's what happened to my brother. He was sitting and then all of a sudden he started.
That happens. The funny thing, autism is interesting because it's different with every kid. It is not similar. So the same signs or characteristics of this child A will be totally different from that of child B. So, and that's why some, they acquire the milestones mostly up to the age of 2. Then from there now you start seeing them regressing. The motor ability, some of them even lose the ability to walk. And if they're walking, they're not walking straight. So you start seeing them staggering. And so for the children, once, because mostly you can be able to tell from at around the age of 2, after you start seeing the milestones. So it's really important to, especially for the first-time parents, it's really important to familiarize yourself with the milestones that your child should acquire, and don't be paranoid, because again you have to expose your child for them to achieve these milestones, because you see that's another thing that is happening currently. We are too much. How can I put it? We are taking these children, especially for the first-time moms. We are really let me just say, for lack of better word,
we're babying the babies.
Yes, we are babying them too much. So I don't want my child. I want to hold my child. I don't want them to be lie on the bed or on the baby cot by themselves. I don't want them to go outside. So I just want my child to be my child, my baby. So once you don't expose your child to these things, and also screen, because I've interacted with parents and they tell you, I've exposed my child to screen as early as 6 days old. Yeah.
Sorry, you could see that on my face.
Yeah.
Did you say 6 days?
6 days old. Because I'm a working mom. I have to go back. I have to work, or I have to do something, or I'm in social media. I don't want my baby to distract me. So the best thing to do is just put the baby on the screen, and they won't
That is wild.
Yeah. People are doing that.
But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because I've seen some very interesting, ways that parents are using technology as the third parent.
Yeah.
From your experience, what would you say is the biggest challenge for autistic children? Right? You're living with autism now. You've already discovered the signs. What are the challenges that this kid is going to face from what you've experienced?
So the challenges, because you see, for you to be on the autism spectrum, you're struggling already with the ability to socialize with others. You're struggling with communication. You're struggling with interaction, So all these things are things that build up a person. As a human, you're a social being. You communicate your needs. We use speech to communicate our needs. And also our imagination is wired in a certain way. So you're able to critical think, you're able to solve problems, But now for an individual who is on the autism spectrum is struggling with all this. So you can imagine a child, all a child does is play.
Yeah.
And when they're playing, they communicate. So, of course, the reason as to why they even isolate themselves is not because they don't want to socialize. It's because they don't know how to socialize. I want to interact, but I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why you find most of them just isolating themselves. So they don't know how to navigate the world. And as we walk, even as you walk outside the gate, there's noise from the cars, the birds are chirping. There's a lot that is happening. So for this individual who is on the autism spectrum, their senses they can be so intense, or for others they're not perceiving. So you see, even just going into a matatu and move from point A to point B becomes a challenge because there's a lot that is happening at the same time. So they don't know how to navigate our world, and as a society, we are not making it easy for them at the same time.
No, we're not. I mean, we could open up a whole Pandora's box on how navigation or mobility for someone living with disability.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about autism, but even just think about someone who is on a wheelchair, paraplegic.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I find that I'm glad you mentioned the world, because when I used to look at my brother, he didn't have any challenges by himself, right? Yeah. It was the interacting with other people that would now create problems for him. You're talking about loud sounds. My brother didn't like loud sounds, didn't like shouting, didn't like banging, none of that. When he was frustrated, he'd scream. And we've experienced what the challenges an autistic child will face. But the society...
That is the biggest.
Oh my Lord. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
I remember... this memories. I've had such a terrible month, so if I'm not able to get... I can
imagine. It's okay, I understand.
I remember when my brother was... when he was in school, because I was in high school at the time. And so sometimes when we're going to school, let's say if the car is spoiled, the life doesn't end. You can't say now because there's no car, you can't, because doing public transportation with him was difficult. Why? You get into the matatu, you're standing at the stage, and his mannerisms are not, he looks like everybody else, but his mannerisms, he's happy. If he's happy, he wants to clap loudly, and he wants to, touch the next person and share with, the joy. He wants to kiss the person sitting next to them. And just imagine you're in a matatu on a Monday morning. Kila mtu na stress zake.
Yeah.
Do you know how many times people wanted to beat him?
I can imagine.
Telling you, mwambie anyamaze huyo mwenda wazimu.
That I was about to say that time,
and what does that do for you? You then start to realize you want to beat everyone. You're like trying to explain to them, like, my brother is autistic. And in fact, if anything, he's showing you love. Like, there's no place... in him that has any hate towards you. You know, he's not trying to do anything. He likes the texture of your hair. He likes hair, so he wants to touch hair. He wants to kiss you because that's how he wants to remind you.
That's how he's communicating.
He doesn't like seeing people crying. He doesn't like seeing people hurt. So he wants to, you know, let that all go. But the society wouldn't, I guess because people are not exposed, they didn't know how to operate with that. And then after I finished high school, I decided to join Autism Awareness, Autism Society of Kenya, just to be able to see, because all the things I'd experienced with my brother, I was like, there must be people out there who. So I started doing volunteer work. And then you go and realize that,
wameja.
First, wachata kuja. There are some families, because of how society has stigmatized this disease or this spectrum, they then hide the kid.
They do.
So, I mean, I experienced such crazy, you know, a kid has been locked in a kennel.
Yeah.
And so the kid has even malformed. They are now walking on all fours, right? Why? Because you can't be able to explain to your neighbor that my child is different. Right? What has been some of your experiences?
I think I've interacted with a kid. He's currently 14 years old, and his background is quite traumatizing, just like the one you're saying. The one was locked in a kennel. So originally, he's Tanzanian by birth, but they had to move to Kenya because there everyone was like, mtoto wako ni mwenda wazimu. No, the mom underwent so much trauma, so much stigma. And it's sad that most of these kids, the moms end up being single moms. Because their dad is like, kwetu hakuna watoto kama hawa. So they just go. So the mom, while she was telling her story, she was telling us the child, there's a time she found her child beaten to and unconscious in a ditch. And it was a neighbor who had beat the kid. When she went to school, she took the child to school. Nobody wanted the child in school because the boy was like happy, wants to be everywhere. He couldn't settle. So I think it was sad hearing such a story, especially from, I understand. It's okay. I know, it's sad.
That's horrible.
And that's where we are at as a society. That's why personally, I wanted so much I'm so big into sensitization. We need to let people know these kids are there. They're with us. They're not going anywhere. And we need to accommodate it. The same way we build wheelchairs for the ones who are physically impaired. The same way we have sticks for the blind, walking sticks for the blind, the white cane. So it's the same way we also need to embrace these kids. You know, because they're nothing less of human if you look at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're able to navigate the world, they're able to socialize, but it's how you now approach them that matters.
Let's talk about, you know, when you're dealing with I mean, it is a spectrum. It is. There are those. My brother was nonverbal his whole life, but he was great at communicating. So we knew exactly everything he wanted, what his needs were. But then, and that's on the really intense autism. There are those who I've met people who are functioning in offices, but you notice that something is a bit off with them. Right? But it's great to see that there's opportunities for them. But we're going to talk about the opportunities. Let's start with the responsibility at home. Because I've started to realize, in fact, when my brother passed away, because he was sick before he passed away, and that's a long story, but I was looking at my parents who have spent 32 years of their lives basically being a caregiver. Right? Yeah, exactly. For those who've ever had someone who's ill, let's imagine, God forbid, you have to take care of your parents because they're ill, or you have a grandparent and you're their sole caregiver from morning to evening, day and night, right? What are some of the challenges? Because, you know, it's easy to speak about the individual, but the support now of the family. Can we talk about that?
Well, let me say, with where we are at, we have placed the parents in a position where if they don't have the money, then it's so hard for them to get the support. If you see like the parents who come to you and they're like, first of all, they don't even have from assessment to get a diagnosis, that is money. For you to get the interventions, the therapies, taking a child to a good school, that is also extra money. So for a parent who does not have this privilege, you'll find them taking their child on. Now, they end up not taking their child to school. And it takes a toll on them because we have a lot of parents who are depressed because they are the sole caregiver. Nobody around them is understanding them enough to support them. Some of them are even being... they're being chased away from their families. Like your mom and your dad, they like tell you, you've brought for us a kid, kwetu hatuna mtoto kama huyu, so we cannot,
Oh, wow.
Parents are being disowned by their own families. And it's a lot of trauma. And for this parent, can you imagine now these parents, they need to work to provide for this child in terms of food, clothing. They cannot even go to work to provide for this child. So that's why you find them now going an extra mile. Some even end up, sometimes I stopped saying, when I was young, I was naive. So I was like, why are you committing suicide? Why are you killing? But right now,
you get it. If
you're pushed to that point, to be honest, you might find yourself even killing yourself and your child.
Isn't that sad?
It is. Because, the pressure is too much. There's only so much one can handle,
It's interesting how you mentioned that when it comes to support for parents, I think, and I'm glad we're having this conversation because even if you don't have a kid who has autism, right? Let's imagine you have a sibling who has a kid who has autism. There's a lot more support you can be able to give that parent. I'll give you an example. So growing up, one of us always had to stay at home, right?
To take care of your brother.
Exactly. Or my mom never used to like house helps. So I think by the class 6, class 7, there was no house help allowed in our house, right? So why? Because my mom is scared for my brother. What if someone mistreats him
and he's nonverbal?
Exactly. How would we know? So, and people are, if your own people are struggling to accept, because the behaviors can be erratic, right? How will a stranger have that patience?
Of course.
So it is guaranteed that one of us has to always be, when you go to functions publicly, right? Of course, we want to go all of us, right? It's either we go all of us or 2 of us, meaning my brother and somebody stays in the house. And even when you go to a public function, as much as your family and everybody is accepting, right, that, yay, we want you here, nobody is saying, hey, let me come take care of him. Right? Bring him over for the weekend so that you guys can...
Actually, you become that family people avoid.
Yes. You understand?
Yeah.
So I can imagine for a parent who's alone, or even just two parents who are alone, they don't have maybe kids. You see, at least my parents were smart. They had other kids, right? so then when they want to take a break, they're like, yo, you guys are left with your brother.
Yeah, we are going.
But, as soon as we were all old enough, we moved out and they were left with my brother. But in a scenario where parents are by themselves, can you imagine?
Yeah, it's so
a mother
hard.
by herself with this kid. That's basically, she has no life around.
Yeah, she doesn't. Let me tell you, a lot of these kids are being locked in the houses. They're left alone so that the mom or the dad can just go, look for something, then come back at home. I have, actually, there's one parent who she shared the same story. She was like, every morning she has to lock the house, the child. She has to lock the child in the house because there's no school that is accepting him. And then go to work, then come back. And the child is on the level 3 spectrum. That is the worst case scenario. Yeah, so and I'm sure she's not alone out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are so many of them.
So can you imagine? And this is just autism.
Yeah.
We have not even started with all the other diseases or
the condition like cerebral palsy. There are a lot.
There are a lot. And parents are literally have no otherwise but to just you if you have nobody to take care of your kids, siniwewe.
Yeah. It's a call for us as a society to stand up, to be honest. Because it can happen to anyone. It doesn't mean that, you know what, there's no criteria that, or you don't say, or you don't do an application and say, I'm capable, let me have that child. You know, it can happen to anyone. Yeah. So I think the same way, and you know, the funny thing about disability, you can acquire it at any point in life. So one day you will wake up, something happens, God forbid you get a stroke, you get into an accident, and you're totally dependent to someone.
Yeah.
You know, this is something that we cannot prevent. So I think we need to be in that position where we are creating the environment, a very friendly environment to the parent and also to the kids. There's a parent who shared, they went to a marketplace and the kid was not settling down. Do you know, someone just took advantage of that situation and stole from her. And she was left with nothing, just her and the kid in a market. So I think as a society, we need to do better.
You know, everybody always thinks that there's a part where you mentioned that watu watasema, sisi kwetu hatukwangi na hii ugonjwa. Right? And I can imagine how many parents have found themselves in such a situation. Let's talk about myths, because we realize that people don't know many things or anything about autism. There's a lot of assumptions, superstitions, especially superstitions, right? Ni wewe umerogwa. Hii imetoka kwa family yenu. So let's debunk some of these myths, right? I'm going to give you a point and then you tell me whether it's true or false. So,
okay.
Autism is caused by bad parenting.
Definitely not.
Haiwezi kuwa ni venye umeraise mtoi amekuwa sasa unruly.
Hapana. Because unajua, the behaviors they're portraying, it's because of how they're perceiving the world. Because you see, like kama wewe, ukiwa nje, you, of course, utasikia joto utoe sweater. Sindio? Utasikia njaa, you go and find something to eat. When I'm talking to you, you're able to understand what I'm saying and you're able to give me a feedback. So now for these children on the autism spectrum, imagine there's a really good visualizer on TikTok. You can just go and look at the autism visualizer. It shows you how these children perceive information. So it's a kid in the mall and they're able to they're not able to block the sounds that are coming. So when you're in a mall, someone is here, people are talking, others are walking, there's maybe someone making popcorns, maybe there's someone dropping their coins. So now for you, if there's so much noise around, you're able to that's why even when you're in a loud place, you can be able to still have a conversation with someone because your mind is able to block all these noises and you're focusing on what you want to hear. But now for a child who's on the autism spectrum, they cannot handle all this information at once. So everything that is happening, for them, they perceive it. So that's why you find them ending, you'll see them lying on the floor, others are screaming, others are holding their ears, others are running away. So it's not bad parenting. I wouldn't say it's bad parenting. It's just them reacting to what they're perceiving, what their brain is perceiving.
I hope you guys are learning. Autism people cannot communicate. True or false?
False. Communication is not just about speech. Actually, we use more of our non-verbal communication more than we use our speech to communicate. Like our eyes, when I'm doing something, you can be able to tell if I'm sad, if I'm serious, if I'm happy, through just looking at me. I don't have to tell you, this is how I'm feeling. You can be able to tell by my facial expressions, my body language. Children with autism, even the ones who are non-verbal, they are able to communicate using these other modes of communication. So that's why you'll say a child, if they want something, they'll just hold your hand to lead you to do something. Others will point, others will hug you. They're communicating. Even crying for them, the screaming, that is them communicating to you. I'm uncomfortable. I'm not okay being here. If your child, you find them, maybe you've provided various things.
Yeah.
They're able to communicate through, they'll just come and pick I've already communicated, this is what I want. Yeah, even when it comes to toileting, others you'll see them pulling down their pants, others you'll see them trying to hide under a table, under a bed. That is them communicating. I know the act of going to the toilet is private, so I don't want to do it in the public. I want to hide and do it. Yeah, so communication, you just have to be very observant just to see why your child is reacting in a certain way. Yeah, because they're communicating.
All autistic people are the same, true or false?
Very much false, because autism by itself, it's by the full term of autism is autism spectrum disorder. So the word spectrum, it's like I like to use the example of an umbrella. You know, it's from the middle part going and expanding. So there are those who are in the middle part, there are those who are at the edge. So all of these, the kids, they are totally different. And we actually categorize them in 3 levels. We have level 1, level 2, and level 3 spectrum. So those who are on the level 1 spectrum, those ones are the ones the ones that you mentioned. They're able to be in a workplace. They can interact with it. But unless you now have a one-on-one interaction with them, is when you can say there's something off about you. The ones who are on the level 2, they require a bit of support. So we categorize these levels according to the level of the support needed. Those who require so much support are on the level 3. Level 2, they're mostly moderately affected by this by their condition.
And is it because from my experience, this is on the side, not the next question, but from my experience, when my brother was younger, he was much hyper.
Yeah.
Right? Like super hyper. I remember when he was, I think 3, he wouldn't sleep. Like 0 sleep. So in the middle of the night when everybody is shutting down, he's super active. He wants to turn things around. He wants to flip you just put him in the living room, just be like, have fun. Take everything out. And he's like flipping tables, flipping seats, and he's laughing and he's enjoying the music. But then when he got much older, especially when he got late 20s into his 30s, he got super calm, super chill, like no more screaming. He doesn't shout. He's very chill.
He's chill.
Yeah.
Like I said, for when you're on the autism spectrum, it's either you are over or under. So for this, a child, naturally children play. Now, for a child with the autism spectrum, you'll find them not, either they are overactive or they are not responsive at all. There are those who do not, they're literally in their own world. And there are those who are now happy, they're active, they want to touch everything, they want to explore, because that is who children are. Yeah. They explore, they play, they interact with other kids. So for now, the children on the autism spectrum, that's why you find them trying to touch everything, because they don't have boundaries. They don't know what boundaries are. Like their brain is not able to perceive right and wrong. To them, everything is right. Everyone is good. Yeah. That's why you even find them, like you were saying, your brother didn't know strangers.
Nope.
To him, he wanted to interact with everyone. Yeah, because they don't understand there is danger. For us, we do not want to engage with strangers because we understand we don't know who you are. So there's that aspect of danger that we want to avoid. Yeah. Now, for these children, they don't have the sense of danger. Some of them. Some do, some don't. So that's why you'll find them as they grow and the intervention is put to place, you'll find them now becoming calmer. They're now getting to understand the world. And sadly, there's some who end up masking in terms of they start pretending to be who they are not, just to fit in the society. Because you guys are treating me in this way because I'm different from you. So let me just try and be like you so that you accept me. And it ends up taking a toll on them at the end of the day. Yeah. So that's why you'll find a child, once they be themselves, and eventually you'll start now finding them withdrawing. Yeah, so it's either the child has undergone the right intervention measure or they have just found themselves in a situation where they want now to mask. Yes.
And I guess that's not
it's
ideal.
Not good.
I think it's only ideal maybe for the people who are around them because they're like, oh, thank God, and I behave normal. But you see, that is to support you.
Yeah.
Because look, even as I'd be moving in town and people will be talking about my brother like that, he's smiling.
Oh, he doesn't
Like, he's
care.
not even, he's people are like, do what him is just laughing.
Yeah.
You know, and so it would even irritate enyewe wa Kenya mnakuanga na hasira.
The laugh.
Honestly, the anger. So the more he's laughing, baba wenyewe ako huko mbele amejama anataka kukuja, and you're just like, how do I start saying baba nani? Huyu mtoto akona autism. You can imagine in early 2000s trying to explain to someone what autism is. They don't know. They're just like,
this is bad parenting.
Exactly. One more question. True or false? Can autism be cured? Now, as I ask this question, I know that one of the biggest prayers, because you know we live in a prayerful nation, Christian, Muslim nation that is very prayerful. Yani tunakwanga, we want to know what is happening, right? And we want to know that it can be better. I mean, look, even the kind of lingo we have, right? Around, if you go to your pastor, and you introduce him to your child who has autism, your pastor's thought immediately is, I can be able to heal this kid with prayers. Right? And you see, for somebody who's you're living your life, and someone is trying to change you, because that's how you show now, right? Giving you sort of false hope.
Yeah.
Can autism be cured from your experience?
So autism is it cannot be cured because it's not a disease where you go, you're given medicine, you take it and you're okay. Autism is a condition, you're born with it. It's how your brain functions. It's how, because autism is all about the mind. How the neurotypical mind is and that of a child with autism is totally different. How they are perceiving information, how they are expressing themselves, how they want to socialize, everything is different. So you cannot change the mind of a person. I'm saying it like medically. Yeah, you cannot change the the reaction that are happening. So it's only how you now try to navigate. You change the environment for them. And once you change that environment for them, to be honest, with my years of experience in the field, I have seen a lot of children improving. So with the right therapy interventions, with the right, in your home as well, just try to make a good environment for the children. If your child has a lot of sensory sensitivities, you just create an environment that is stimulating their senses, but in a calm manner. And eventually you now start finding them accommodating the sensory aspects in the environment. So we are not curing it, we are managing it. And you'll find that's why, as much as you can be diagnosed with level 3 autism, but with the right intervention measures, you find yourself now moving to level 2 and eventually even to level 1. Yes.
But
so
you will always
identify
someone with autism.
Yes.
What are the common misconceptions that you've had? And I feel like we've kind of touched on some of them, but like that are still prevalent today. Because you can imagine when we were meeting autism for the first time, we didn't even know the word for it.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
There was no word for it. We didn't know what was going on. They were treating all sorts of other things. And then now come to understand what autism is. And because of that understanding, we're able to know about interventions, which we'll talk about. But let's talk about the misconceptions.
So people we are judging autism differently. And for one, the parents, most parents go to the hospital. They're like, they come, yes, you want your child after the diagnosis. I'm like, I want my child to have, to be cured. I want my child to speak. Others go beyond. There's a surgery. I don't know if you've heard of it. Stem cell surgery. Yeah, people go to India, spend a lot of money, but from what I've not had any success story yet of someone who has gone for that stem cell and they have come with their child healed. So we can't blame the parents. Of course, once you've been told, the news has been broken to you that your child has autism, the first thing as a parent, you get in shock.
Yeah.
You're like, no. Then you start like having a debate. Then after that, before you get to acceptance, there's a lot I can say you find yourself in a what's the word?
Denial?
No, not even denial, like desperate. You find yourself in a desperate situation where if you tell you take this medication, you'll take it. If we tell you, like the way you say, go to this church, you go. So autism is not a curse. It's not someone who has been, nobody has bewitched you. Nobody has cursed your child.
Please, just repeat that sentence again.
Okay. What was I saying? Autism So autism is not a disease. It's not a curse. It's a condition that we are managing. It's how one is able to now navigate around the world that is different. How they're able to get the information from the world. Because that is what we humans do.
Yeah.
We get information, we acquire it, then we react. That's why when you're hungry, you eat. When you're feeling thirsty, you drink water. Because that is the information that you have perceived. Now, for these children, how they perceive that, they're not any different from us. If
we're talking about common misconceptions that people have about autism. And I feel like we've touched on a few of them, but like, what are some of those that you were talking about? Stem cell, kids being taken abroad for.
Yeah, they're taking abroad, and actually, it's not done once. You do it, then they tell you to do intensive therapy. So you see, the debate is the surgery working, or is it the therapies that are working? Because with only therapy, we have seen children improving. But now when surgery is done, others even get worse. And so you don't have to go to that extent.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can imagine doing surgery and then your kid gets worse.
They get worse.
So there's a level of, first as a parent, you have to accept.
Yeah, which is the hardest part for most parents. Yeah, acceptance is very hard.
To accept that your child has autism.
Yeah.
Because if you don't accept, like what?
Actually, people, because you see, you've been given a bouncing baby boy, bouncing baby girl, you're happy. You already have plans for your child. They're going to go to this school, you're going to live here. Then once that happens, or once you see your child getting to that point where they're now different from the other children, then you're given the news, boom, your child has autism. First of all, let me say, not many people know what autism is. They don't understand what it is. So if you're just told your child has autism and you've never heard of it, no, that's where you find yourself in denial. You don't want it. And then most people, we are terming autism as a very bad thing. So it's like, it's a disease. It's a very bad disease that we don't want it. And so once you have that mentality, and also again, the family.
Yeah.
Your husband. So once your husband, this is someone who is supporting you, he's supposed to be your partner. They tell you, I cannot be with you with this child. Just accepting that fact that it's because of this child that I'm in this position it's a battle. Yeah, and I think I try to like understand the parents, because you want your child to grow up to be this person. You already have a plan for them, but this plan is no longer going to work because of this and this.
You have a new challenge.
Yeah. And again, you are now going to be the primary caregiver of this child.
Yeah.
So even accepting that at some point, some of my dreams, my life, things are going to change. It also takes a lot.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
To get to that acceptance, it's really a battle between parents.
Everything I'm hearing is, so the parents, there's the dynamics of the parents, right? Which is, I think every parent has an aspiration that I raise a kid and by the time they're 18, they leave the nest.
They're independent.
But when you have a child who has special needs, you know that this is for life. Like you're it's a life.
And it's on you.
Yeah. But then there's an importance to also remember that it's not about you. It's about this individual.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of support from the society and the government as well. Let's talk about what kind of support the government provides for such kids, because even schools, right? I'm of the thinking that they should not be special schools.
Yeah.
Special needs schools, I don't like them. I don't appreciate them. No, I love the work that they're doing.
Yeah, but I understand.
But I feel like the
from.
moment when you're trying to educate a society and try and normalize stuff, And these kids have never seen they just think everybody's supposed to look a certain way, right? Everybody is supposed to interact in a certain way. So when you don't have this, on the side, how are we going to beat stigma? So let's talk about the kind of support that government provides.
Okay, before I answer that, I've just remembered a common misconception that is out there, that all autistic people are clever. Or they are...
Yes.
Because I remember having a friend...
Clever or genius?
Genius. They're geniuses. So I remember having a friend who was telling me, when I give birth, I want to give birth to a child who has autism. Because he or she is going to be a genius. Yeah. So I think that is also something that is out there.
Some misconception.
Yeah, even if some are genius, yes, but they still need support. So we just need to understand what kind of support are we giving to them? Yeah, so when it comes to the support that we need to give these kids, actually starting from the government is trying to do a lot currently with a lot of sensitization is happening so much. In the past, I think 3 years, the government has really even training teachers in the special needs, because it requires like a teacher who is trained on how to handle these kids for them now to be able to handle these kids in the school. Yeah, so the government is trying, but there's still a long way to go. If you look at it, the schools, I also support you saying the special schools. There's a shortage of teachers in the special schools. You take your child to the school, because you see the children on the autism spectrum, they are different, right? So they're not the same. If I give you 10 kids in one class and all of them are different, as a teacher, which kid are you going to focus on and which kid are you going to leave behind? So, of course, at the end of the day, you find these kids, they are just going there. It's like a daycare, then they go back home. And most of them are even being molested in these schools. Oh, wow. Because we don't have enough people to take care of them in the schools.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we are teaching the society to accept these kids, but are we also putting them in an environment where they are included in the society? And once a child has been and then funny thing about children on the autism spectrum, they learn through coping behavior. So if you're taken to a completely special needs school, so imagine what are you going to learn?
That's the question.
I came to this school when I'm not harming myself. I'm leaving this school harming myself. Some self-harm through biting, hitting their head. So if I was not doing that, I will know this is how people do. This is what people do. Because we learn, actually children learn from the environment. Yeah. So I really advocate for inclusive schools. But again, in the inclusive schools, are we well equipped for these children?
Because my question is, if we're talking about, and I'm glad you mentioned that these public schools that are special needs schools, first they're limited, right? They're not in.
They're understaffed.
They're limited in number, not reflecting of the number of people living with disability in Kenya. And then the second thing is they're understaffed.
Yeah.
And then third thing is, so already a parent who has a child who has disability is probably spending more for upkeep.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things. And then on top of that, I have to pay more for school.
For school, yeah.
Because how many people can surely afford, private?
And actually, I was asking one of my colleagues the same question. Because my child is not being accepted in school because of their challenges, because of their mannerism. But at the same time, the government is not giving me
an alternative.
And at the same time, they're going to come to me and arrest me because of not taking my child to school. So it's a dilemma.
Yeah. And that's why parents find themselves, interventions of
exactly.
Let nobody even know that this kid exists,
Just to avoid all this.
I'm just, thinking about all this, you're just like on top of the stigma, right? I understand how if you know, like a baby daddy who's seeing himself like cheki, nikienda nani atajua, si mtu yata survive bila mimi. Mamake lazima apambane,
atapambana.
Mtu anaangalia, he looks at that situation and he quickly makes calculation and says, I'm going. I'm not sticking around for this. And it becomes really super, super sad. In terms of when the couple is in the hospital and they've gotten this news, or they've just discovered that their kid has autism, is there any psychosocial support that is provided for the parent?
Yeah, there is. We do a lot of counseling, a lot of parental support, and a lot of organizations are doing that currently. And actually, even us being here, we are offering support to one parent, because I'm sure if one of the parents is able to watch this, at least they will. My hope is they will be able to be empowered. They'll be able to know there's way forward for my kid. And there are also a lot of groups for the parents out there that are able to, like, once you put yourself in a community of other parents who have children with disabilities. From there, now you're able to, it's good. If we're speaking the same language, we'll interact more, better, compared to if I'm speaking mathematics, you're speaking science. So we will collide. But if I'm speaking autism and you're speaking autism, and I'm telling you, these are the challenges I have, as human, we just tend to feel like, oh, I'm not alone, oh, I belong. And that also helps. Yeah, so there are counseling services that you can seek. And also schools. Some schools also have the therapy services as well. And there are other organizations that offer that. Yeah. And also the hospitals,
Aside from diagnosis, counseling, therapy, right? Are there resources for diagnostics that, if I go to a specific hospital or a specific doctor, I can be able to get all the information? Because when you have someone living with autism, their diet is different.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's not a everyday situation. It's not just business as usual. Yeah. What this kid is eating is hella different. There are things that they can't eat. And these things are super detrimental to their health and even their personality, right? So if a parent is watching right now and they're like, okay, I think I suspect right?
my child might be on the autism spectrum. So the first thing to do is seek an assessment. So either from an assessor, a special needs assessor, or a doctor. That is a child psychiatrist. So a child psychiatrist is actually able to diagnose your child and advise you, like, this is the way forward for your child. If you want to go and seek advice from a nutritionist, I will advise that you seek advice from a nutritionist who understands what autism is. Like any person you're interacting with, make sure at least they're able to interact. They understand a bit about autism. And because we have really had cases of parents getting misdiagnoses from different doctors. So it's okay to seek second opinion, even a third one and a fourth one. Yeah, just compare the notes. Yeah, because funny enough, we have parents who come to you, they have a whole book. Yeah. They have done their own research, which is totally okay. Yeah, right now we have social media platforms. You can be able to get a lot of information about autism as well.
Absolutely.
Google is there. Yeah. So it's okay to have all this information, then go to now a specific person or a professional. Yes.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because this element of social media, right? We are living in the age of AI and false and disinformation.
Yeah.
Right? Disinformation, meaning that there are people who are out there just spreading information that's not accurate.
True. Yeah.
Right?
For their own benefits.
And it can be detrimental. Let's imagine you're a parent at home.
Yeah.
You've decided, you know what, I think, let me go Google. Then you find a video of someone on TikTok, and they maybe they even have a stethoscope sitting on their neck, and their page is written Dr. Nani, and they're telling you, Jaden should not be eating this, or Jaden should be Stacey anafaa kupatiwa ABCDE. And you don't take that information and confirm with a professional, and you just decide to start taking this kid on a tangent. You could kill them.
True.
And we've highlighted this a bunch of times on this podcast, that there's TikTok doctors, right?
Yeah, they're there.
Who are not qualified. So as you take information from online, take with a pinch of salt. And I like what you said, confirm with a professional.
Yeah.
All right, what can teachers do differently in schools? Especially because chances are there's a teacher who has a whole classroom and then has realized, I think that child, right? Because diagnosis starts from baby, but you can get a late diagnosis.
Yeah, you can. Teachers, first and foremost, attitude. What you need to be in a position where you are willing to accept these kids and be very patient. They require a lot of patience and determination. So first, as a teacher, seek more information. Like there's no limit. As a teacher, of course, you're in the field of education. So seek more information about autism. Even if that is not your line, at least just have the basics. Understand, so that you're able to point out, this kid might be, you are suspecting, you're helping even the parents. So that that is where the journey starts, by identifying.
Yeah.
Then after that, you go for a confirmation, then now intervention starts. So as a teacher, be informed and have a positive attitude, because teaching, I say teaching is a calling. Yeah, it's not everyone who can teach.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but those are the main ones. Be positive and be educated.
I hope you're getting information. Remember, it's World Autism Month, month of April, all around the world. This is the time where you're able to get resources and literally help parents and people living with autism know about any new information that is there, and also just let you know what resources are there for you. We will be sharing our great friend Brenda's contact in case you want it. If you're thinking, okay, you know what, I think I might have a child who has. Before I ask you the last two questions, maybe you can share with us your credentials, which I should have asked at the beginning.
My contact, it's
credentials, like how
social.
in this space. How did you end up in this space for autism?
Okay. Nilijipata. I don't say I started with a passion or anything. No, I started, that after Form 4, you're like, what next? So after that is when now a friend of my dad just mentioned, why don't you do special needs education? And I was like, what is special needs education in the first place? So just going there and Googling and seeing, so there was only visual impairment, physical impairment, and hearing impairment. So I was like, I'm interested in knowing Kenyan Sign Language. Then that's when I went now to school to do my diploma. Then in the course, I was like, there's this new course. It's called Autism. After now specializing, I'm like, what is autism? So out of curiosity, I specialized in autism. And while being in the field is when I was like, I started learning more about it. And the more I learned about it, the more I became passionate about it. The more I was like, many people need to know what this is. Yes. And they need to understand what it is.
And you've taken the chance to let people know about it.
Yeah.
If you're thinking you might need some information, or maybe you've got a cousin, a relative, and now you're like, oh my God, I've never thought about that family and the kind of support that they need. Maybe you can share with us, for friends and relatives, how they can be more supportive and understanding.
Positivity. Like, this journey needs a different mindset. It's children with autism. They can learn, they can socialize, they can communicate. The imagination can be molded. So it's only of the how do we support. So be there for that parent. Even just call that parent and just ask them, how are you? Where can we help you? If you see something and you're like, I'll call you and I tell you, I saw this hospital somewhere, they're doing this. Why don't we find more information about this? Yeah. So there's no limit as to how you can help an individual or a child or a parent or even just a relative who is around or surrounded with the stigma of autism.
Yeah. Because the spectrum, guys, and there's this thing that guys say that squeezy autism may increase. Globally, just everybody now is on the spectrum, and I guess it's because of getting the diagnosis. Remember, when we started this episode, I mentioned that when my brother was born and he started presenting signs of autism,
you didn't know.
We didn't know, but now I can see even stage 1. I can be able to
detect from a very young age.
What's one message that you'd like to carry for every parent who's listening, right? As a takeaway from this conversation? Because I know that, we haven't even started touching on everything because it's quite wide, and it's not like a scratch on the, a wound. This is a lifelong situation. We've already mentioned there's no cure. We've already mentioned that there needs to be school. There needs to diet. There's psychosocial support for the family. But what's one thing you'd want a parent to take away from this?
For the parents who are out there, it's good. Understand that you are not alone in this journey. And it's a good thing that we are taking initiative to sensitize as many people as possible. And do not hide yourself. You can be the voice that can change the world. So once you identify that your child is on the autism spectrum, do not lose hope. We have seen these children improving and becoming very important people. Actually, we even have, I don't know if you've heard of the footballer like Messi. He was told he is on the autism spectrum. We have very big people. Your child can be able to do a lot of things, but only if you do not hide them, and only if you do not seclude yourself. Take yourself, put yourself in a society, in a community, and seek as much as support, because support is out there. There's a lot of support out there. So you're not alone.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brenda. And I think maybe as we finish, I'd like to say for all of us who are watching this, we never know, right? I don't think there's any parent out there except Brenda's friend who's like, I pray that I have a kid who has autism, right? Everybody wants the best for their kid, but you could find yourself in such a circumstance. Now, with everything we've discussed, you tell me if this is fair. You have a kid, maybe your spouse disappears because stigma. You continue pambanaing with this kid, and then you realize, actually, even your family, nobody is actually coming to support you. Yes, they come to visit you once or twice, but nobody is saying, hey, let me take Jaden so that you can have a day off. Because now we've mentioned that a parent who has a child with special needs never takes a day off. Ever, right? And then look at the government, right? Now on top of the fact that labda mzazi, and by the parents disappearing, it's not just mothers, it's not just fathers, even mothers. I know a few parents with kids with autism, and they are the sole provider, a dad, and he has more than 2 kids who have autism, right? More than. Okay? So you find yourself, you're alone, right? You stigma, your family, you walking around society, they're judging you, and you know damn well that your kid is an amazing person. And then on top of that, you have to find extra money to take them to a private school. Why? Because public school for special needs is wanting. Guys, does this sound fair? Even if you don't have a person living with autism or a child living with autism, I'm sure this is a conversation you should have. So I think we should ask the government to do better when it comes to special schools. And my thinking is we shouldn't be isolating kids with special needs. We should be putting, what are they called? Integrated schools, right? Integrated schools. Kilimani Primary used to be an integrated school. I don't know whether it still is. You could have children who were...
most public schools are actually integrating them.
But the teachers are not there. Right? So there is need for better. Anyway, hit us up in the comment section if this conversation has resonated with you. Brenda, thank you so much for coming through. And Brenda is actually has a school. Just tell them about it.
We have a school along Kiambu Road. We are just taking kids and preparing them now for the inclusion. Because the same way, we don't want to confine them in a special facility. So we are just preparing them with therapies and independency skills to now transit them to regular schools.
All right. All right. Brenda, thank you so much for coming through. And guys, remember, every April is Autism Awareness Month. But it's not the end of the awareness. All this information that you've gotten, go and share with your cousins, with your aunties, with your friends, because chances are in your home or your friend circle, there's somebody living with autism but hasn't been diagnosed.
Yeah, true.
Kapow!